There are people in your life who don't like you. And the strange part is, backhand index pointing right, you didn't do anything. No argument. No betrayal. No disrespect. Still something feels off. They smile when you're there. But the moment you leave, the energy changes. You can feel it. It's subtle, but it's real. And for a long time, you probably tried to explain it. Maybe it's jealousy. Maybe they misunderstood you. Maybe you said something wrong without realizing. So you replay conversations. You adjust your behavior. You become more careful, more aware. Trying to fix something you don't even understand. But here's the truth most people never realize. Backhand index pointing right, not everyone who dislikes you has a reason. And more importantly, backhand index pointing right, not every problem is yours to fix. Because what's happening here is not about your actions. It's about what your presence triggers in them. And once you understand this, something inside you shifts. You stop chasing approval. You stop over-explaining. You stop shrinking yourself just to be easier to accept. So let's break this down. Not on the surface level, but on the level people don't talk about. Brain trait number 1. Your presence reminds them of who they're not. This is the one that confuses people the most, because it has nothing to do with what you say and everything to do with how you exist. Think about it. The people who don't like you usually don't even know you that well. No deep conversations. No real history. Yet somehow, they already decided something about you. Why? Because your presence creates a comparison they never agreed to face. You walk into a room, and you're calm, not trying too hard, not seeking attention, not forcing yourself into every conversation, just grounded. And to the right person, that feels peaceful. But to the wrong person, backhand index pointing right, that feels uncomfortable. Because your calmness highlights their chaos. Your self-respect highlights their self-doubt. Your silence highlights their need for validation. And the human brain doesn't like that kind of contrast. There's something important you need to understand. Backhand index pointing right people don't just react to what you do. They react to what you represent. If you represent something they've been avoiding, something they've been suppressing, something they wish they had the courage to become, then your presence alone becomes triggering. And here's where it gets deeper. Instead of asking, why does this bother me? Most people ask, backhand index pointing right, what's wrong with them? So instead of growing, they create a story. You're cold. You think you're better. You're fake. You're different. Not because it's true, but because it's easier than admitting. Backhand index pointing right, you're just more aligned than I am. And that kind of honesty is rare. So what do? They reject you. Not loudly, not directly, but subtly, through distance, through tone, through energy. And if you're not aware of this, you start blaming yourself. You think, maybe I should talk more. Maybe I should be more like them. Maybe I'm the problem. But you're not that, you're just reflecting something they're not ready to face. And reflections are uncomfortable, especially when they're accurate. High voltage transition thought. And if that wasn't enough, there's something even more uncomfortable than your presence. Backhand index pointing right, your growth. Brain trait number 2. Your growth forces them to question their own life. At first, people support you. They clap for you. They encourage you. They say they're proud. But then, something changes. The energy becomes distant. The enthusiasm fades. And suddenly, you feel like you did something wrong. But you didn't. Backhand index pointing right, you just started evolving. You started thinking differently, moving differently, choosing differently. And that shift created pressure. Because now, without saying anything, you're asking them a silent question. Backhand index pointing right, if I can change, why can't you? And that question is dangerous because it destroys excuses. It removes comfort. It exposes procrastination. It challenges the identity they've been living in. So instead of facing it, they resist it. They say, you've changed. You're not the same anymore. You think you're better now. But what they really mean is, backhand index pointing right, you're no longer predictable. Backhand index pointing right, you're no longer relatable in the same way. Backhand index pointing right, you're no longer validating the version of me that stays stuck. And that's uncomfortable, because your growth forces them to confront their stagnation. And not everyone is ready for that. So what do? They distance themselves. They downplay your progress. They act like it's not a big deal. Or worse, they secretly hope you fall back. Not because they hate you, but because your success makes their inaction louder. And silence used to protect them. Now it doesn't. Backhand index pointing right, now you exist. And your existence says, change is possible. And for someone who isn't ready to change, that feels like pressure. So they push you away to protect their comfort. And again, if you don't understand this, you take it personally. You think, why aren't they happy for me? Why do they feel distant? Why does it feel like I'm losing people? But here's the reality. Backhand index pointing right, you're not losing people. You're losing alignment. And alignment is more important than approval. High voltage transition, open loop for part 2. But there's one more trait. And this one is the most subtle. Because it's not about what you do. It's not even about how you grow. Backhand index pointing right, it's about what you refuse to fake. And this is where most of the silent hate actually comes from.